Welcome to this explainer. So today we're diving into something incredibly fascinating, the unseen world of Iblis and the 72 demons. We're going to trace their structured origins right out of Orthodox Islamic theology, and then we'll follow that thread all the way down into some highly complex, entirely forbidden esoteric texts. We've got a lot of super rich source material to get through today, so let's just jump right in.
I want to start us off with a quote that literally changes everything. I am better than he. You created me from fire, and him you created from clay. According to our sources, this one infamous rationale establishes the dramatic core conflict of our entire analysis today. It's that pivotal moment where pure logic was used to defy a divine command, and it completely set the stage for a cosmic rebellion.
Here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with the era before Adam with the jinn, then look at the fall of Iblis, break down the actual hierarchy of these entities, examine the vow against humanity, touch on the forbidden magic of Seer, and finally, we'll look into grimoires and occult demons.
Okay, part 1. Before Adam, the jinn. Long before humans were even in the picture, Islamic traditions state that the jinn, these beings created from smokeless fire, actually ruled ancient Earth. But over the centuries, they caused immense corruption and bloodshed. The texts even point to a specific tribe called Bin Kind who literally crawled on their hands and feet. It got so bad that eventually angels had to intervene to stop the chaos. And this brings us to Iblis. The really surprising thing here, at this time, Iblis wasn't a devil at all. He was a highly pious jinn, and his intense devotion actually elevated him into the heavens to worship alongside the angels. He climbed those cosmic ranks entirely on his own merit.
Moving into part 2, we hit the absolute turning point, the fall of Iblis. So, when Allah created the very first human, Adam, out of clay, a command was given to this entire celestial assembly to bow down to him. The sources explain that this was the ultimate test of absolute obedience. It wasn't actually about worshiping Adam, right? It was about accepting the ultimate authority of the divine command, even over their own personal understanding.
And here we see the exact moment of refusal. Iblis basically put his own logic, this idea that his element, fire, was naturally superior to Adam's element, clay, above the direct command of his creator. Some sources actually call him the first philosopher, because he tried to rationalize his disobedience. But by doing that, he instantly transformed from this pious, respected worshiper into an accursed outcast. His pride was, quite literally, his ultimate downfall.
All right, part 3. Let's look at the hierarchy of these entities.
Now, there's a super common misconception out there that Iblis is a quote-unquote fallen angel. Well, actually, scratch that. The Islamic texts are completely explicit that he is not. Angels are made of light and do not possess free will. They physically cannot disobey. Jinn, on the flip side, are made of fire and absolutely possess the free will to choose between good and evil, kind of just like humans do. Because Iblis was a jinn, he had the capacity to choose arrogance.
The Arabic texts get super specific here, categorizing these unseen entities strictly by their behavior, where they hang out, and their power levels. A general entity is just called a jinni. If they live inside houses with people, they're an amir. If they interact with kids, arwah. Now, if a jinn actively chooses to be wicked and rebellious, they become a shaitan, or a devil. A marid is a step worse than that, a demon. And then the most formidable, powerful, and dangerous of the rebellious jinn is the ifrit. Having this structured classification really helps us understand exactly what kind of forces are being described in these texts.
Which brings us to part 4. The vow against humanity.
So Iblis is cast out, stripped of his rank, but he doesn't just accept it. He builds a massive strategy of revenge. First, he actually demands a delay of this punishment until the Day of Judgment, which Allah grants as a test for mankind. Second, he promises to ambush humans from all 4 directions. But third, and this is the most interesting part to me, he doesn't usually use blunt force. He uses whispers. He plants seeds of doubt and dresses up disobedience to look like freedom, making the forbidden look beautiful. It is pure, absolute psychological warfare.
And get this, he doesn't work alone. Honestly, the level of micromanagement here is kind of mind-blowing. The sources describe how Iblis has offspring, specific shaitans assigned to corrupt incredibly mundane, everyday human activities. Like, Han Sab's test specifically with disrupting your focus while you pray. Valhan tricks people into obsessively wasting water during purification. Zellenborg operates in the markets, making sellers hide defects and cheat their customers. Vestin makes your head feel heavy with sleep right when you try to worship, and Maytun is responsible for spreading false news and rumors. It is a highly organized, super specific bureaucracy of misguidance.
Okay, part 5. Sihr, or the forbidden magic.
In Orthodox Islam, any human attempt to harness or even communicate with these entities through magic,
which is known as sir, is strictly absolutely forbidden. The sources classify it not just as a bad idea, but as kufr, which is disbelief, and shirk, associating partners with God. It's actually considered one of the 7 major deadly sins that will completely doom a person. But there is a massive theological caveat we need to talk about. The texts are completely clear on this. They cannot cause any harm by their magic to anyone except through the permission of Allah. So the big takeaway here is that even the absolute darkest magic or the strongest Ifrit you could imagine possesses zero independent power. None. They only operate within the boundaries permitted by the divine will. The ultimate control always remains with God.
Let's shift gears now for Part 6, Grimoires and Occult Demons.
Now we're pivoting out of orthodoxy and into the esoteric underworld, looking at manuals that blend Islamic lore with much older magical traditions. For instance, these texts list specific names of jinn viziers that were supposedly bound by King Solomon, names like Tamriat, Sanik, Hadlijaj, and Shuhal. Practitioners of the occult actually believe that by invoking these highly specific names, they can command these entities to carry out their will. Obviously, this directly contradicts the strict orthodox prohibition we just talked about.
When you visualize these occult texts, they actually map out these demons and entities using incredibly complex magical seals and clipothotic spheres, which is basically an inverted dark tree of life. Take the seal of Menecal from the Western Grimoire traditions, for example. It's associated with the fire of the moon, lunar energy, and karmic accountability. These esoteric manuals provide the exact step-by-step seals and formulas for practitioners who are trying to channel that energy.
And the sources delve into even darker territory, with entities like Mumul. Representing the heir of Jupiter, this seal is associated with some pretty terrifying concepts: apocalyptic destruction, the Antichrist, and extinction-level events. The esoteric texts categorize these entities as channels of absolute spiritual cleansing through sheer cataclysm. It's a totally fascinating, albeit really dark, structural mirroring of those unseen hierarchies we discussed earlier.
All right, let's wrap this up in our conclusion.
So what does this all mean? As we try to reconcile all these orthodox texts with the wild esoteric interpretations, we're left with this really profound question found in the writings of the Sufi mystic Mansur al-Hallaj. Was Iblis simply an arrogant cosmic rebel? Or, as Hallaj provocatively claimed, was he a tragic figure, a being so incredibly crazed by his absolute single-minded devotion to Allah that he literally could not bring himself to bow to anyone else, even when he was directly commanded to? It's a striking, mind-bending thought from the esoteric text that really leaves us to deeply ponder the true nature of intention, rebellion, and the immense, unseen world around us. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you on the next one.